Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome back to art class. So we made it. Congratulations. We've made it just about through half of our school year, and it might not seem like it, and it certainly doesn't feel like it, but here we are. It's almost Christmas break. So this is going to be like our last project before Christmas break. We're going to take some of the stuff we've been learning all year about drawing and kind of combine it to make something. We started the year off talking about forms, and we learned how we can use perspective and how we can use shading and different values to turn a two-dimensional shape into a three-dimensional form. One of the forms that we talked about was a sphere. We said a sphere, we couldn't really use perspective. There wasn't really a way to like add another side to our sphere because it's perfectly round. Any way you look at it, it's gonna look round. So we said that the way that we have to make that circle into a sphere is by using some kind of shading, some sort of value to show darker areas and lighter areas. Well, it's almost Christmas. What's something that goes on a tree that's definitely a sphere? That's right, we're gonna make some Christmas ornaments. So these Christmas ornaments, they're going to be a really good example of a sphere. Now, if we think about a Christmas ornament, it is usually shiny, right? It's usually reflective. Well, a reflection is one of the ways, in addition to shading, it's one of the ways that we can give something form. Now, when you think about a reflection, usually we're thinking about like a direct reflection, like I'm looking in the mirror and I see myself back, and that's definitely a reflection. But if you look up the definition of reflection, it really just means to bounce. Something's bouncing off. So sound can reflect, temperature, heat can reflect, light can reflect. So if you start to think about it in that way, we see reflections all the time. When you are making a painting and you want something to look realistic, one of the important things is to think about if I'm painting this water bottle next to this stapler and they're close enough, well, the color of this water bottle is going to sort of start to reflect on parts of this stapler. So when I was painting them, I would want to add a little bit of this color onto this object. So reflection works differently in art than we usually think about it. Now, on our Christmas ornaments, our reflections that we draw are going to be pretty simple. They're almost like a cartoony, like a comic book kind of reflection, but it'll still get that idea across. So if we look at this Christmas ornament for a minute, this is the type of Christmas ornament that I'm talking about. It's just a sphere, it's a solid color, and it's usually pretty shiny and reflective. So if we look at this one, we can see some light areas, some dark areas. We can see a little bit of a reflection. On this one, the thing that is reflecting is probably a light source, like the lights in our ceiling or a lamp or something, and that's why that reflection kind of looks white on there. And that's kind of what we're going to work on today. So that's the plan. Let's start making some ornaments. All right, guys. So for our Christmas ornament drawing, we're going to need the normal stuff. We're going to need paper, pencil, crayons, Sharpie if you want to trace, if you've got one, and you're going to need something to help you draw some circles. Now, we're going to need several Christmas ornaments to fit on our paper, so I don't want to use something huge for my circle. So something small, like a little cup or something. So our Christmas ornaments, I'm going to kind of talk about just the reflection first. So what I'm doing now is not what our project is going to be. I'm just showing you kind of what the reflection would look like, and then we will add add these reflections to our smaller ornaments that we're going to draw. So here in a minute, you're going to start with several circles. We want these to look like ornaments, so I'm going to add almost a little rectangle shape somewhere on it. That's going to be the little part where my hook goes. Now, this is a sphere, right? And we know that if we were just shading this, we would shade it using round, curved lines. So the shapes that we are going to make for our reflections are also going to be curved. If I drew a square on here, it would kind of take away from the effect of this thing being round. So let's say that I want my reflection to show up here. I'm going to do a shape. There's a couple of different shapes you can use for these. If you were looking at a Christmas ornament while you were trying to draw this, it might not look like any of the shapes I'm going to show you. These are just some shapes you can use if you're trying to kind of invent this reflection on your own. So you can use like a curved triangle, which is what I'm going to do for some of mine, and also kind of a curved rectangle. So over here, let's say my light's coming from this direction. Whatever is reflecting is coming from up here. So I want my reflection, my brightest spot, to be right around this area. So I'm going to start with a line that kind of curves down. I kind of want to try and match the curve that I have over here. Then I'm going to go back up towards where I started, curve down and make them meet, and then add a line up at the top. So that's kind of what I meant by like a curved triangle. We could also make this a little straighter at the bottom, turn it into kind of a curved rectangle if I want. The most important part is that we're matching the curve on the side of our sphere. So after we finish shading, after we colored this, we would leave this white. And that would make it look like our light was reflecting on that one section. All right. So now let's start our project. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to draw some circles, and it's going to kind of end up looking like a pile of Christmas ornaments. Since we want these to look stacked up on each other, there's going to need to be some overlapping. So the ones in the front, the ones down at the bottom, I'll probably see most of. I'm just going to slide this cup around, and wherever I could see my ornaments, I'll draw all of them. Wherever they are covered up by some other ornaments, I'll just draw a part of them until I end up with a row of ornaments that looks like I want it to look. I might add one more way over here on this side just so it's kind of balanced out on my page. Now, if you accidentally draw a whole other circle on top of that circle, just erase the part that you don't need. So now I'm going to draw a second row. Same idea. I'll have some overlapping so it looks like they are piled up, and so they don't look like they're just kind of, you know, floating there. Okay, and one more. Right there. Now, not all my tracing ended up great, so I'm gonna kind of go back and fix some of these circles. All right, so there's the start of my ornaments. Now I can go in and add my rectangle shapes at the tops. Tops or the sides, it doesn't matter. Remember, this is kind of a pile, so they wouldn't probably all be facing the exact same direction. All right, so we've got our ornaments, we've got our tops, the part where our hooks go. I believe on a real ornament there's another little shape that would kind of look like a U. That's where the hook actually hangs on. If you want to do that part, you can. All right, so now my reflections. Now, since we're making this up, they don't necessarily all need to be like the same side, same area. If we think about it, if this is real life and all my light's coming from the same direction, then they're going to be probably reflecting in a similar area. But also, since these are all shiny, then the light hitting this one and reflecting back might make some light reflect onto this one, so we might actually see a reflection here. So in the real world, a lot of these things like shadows and reflections and stuff are going to be kind of difficult to capture, but since you're just making this up, you can put them kind of wherever you want and it's going to look good. So like we said, I'm going to start with this one down here. We want to make sure whatever shape we choose has a bit of a curve to it so that it matches the curve on the edge of our sphere. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to add my reflections, and I'll kind of speed that up so you're not having to sit here stare at me do that. All right, so I've got my reflections. I'm gonna go ahead and trace everything. Now, as I trace, if there's areas that I think would be a little bit darker, even though, you know, these are all one color, there would still be some darker areas, especially down here. If my light's coming up from the top and I've got all these ornaments, then down here, we're definitely gonna see some darker areas. As I trace, I'm going to go ahead and add in some cross hatching and hatching down near the bottom of some of these ornaments. If you don't have a marker and you're tracing with a crayon or something, which is fine, you can still do that. Or if you're just going to be using crayons, you can always add that in after you do your first color. All right, so done tracing. Hopefully you can see the reflections a bit better. I added some dark areas. I put in just a simple background, just a line so it looks like they're sitting on a table. And then I added just some tiny little hatching and cross hatching underneath it to show where the shadow would have come down on my table. All right, so I am gonna finish coloring this so you guys can see the final version. Not gonna make you sit here and watch me do that though. So we're gonna do a magic trick. All right, 1, 2, 3, abracadabra, alakazam. I think I'm out of magic words. I don't really know magic, so we'll just go ahead and say, please? And just like magic, a Christmas miracle, if you will, it's done. All right, so just real quickly, again, we want some different colors, solid colors. You can use the blending techniques that we used on a few of our other color projects to make the areas darker, where you also added some hash. Nope, that's not a thing. Cross-hatching, there we go. I almost said hashtags, which is weird. Hatching and cross-hatching. Don't forget your reflections should somewhat match the curves of the surface they are on. Can't wait to see everybody's. Hope everybody's doing well. Have a good break. See you guys. Bye.